The Transfiguration Movement, Part 4, The Transformative Power of Identity, by Mikhail Korbanyahu. For the intense longing of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of Elohim. For the creation was subjected to futility, not from choice, but because of him who subjected it, in anticipation that the creation itself also shall be delivered from the bondage to corruption and to the esteemed freedom of the children of Elohim. For we know that all the creation groans together and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. Romans 8, verses 19 through 22. Trans-identity, a movement reclaimed. Let's begin with the word itself. Trans is a Latin prefix meaning across, beyond, or through. It implies motion, a crossing over, a passing beyond one form into another, a movement from one state of being into something new. Identity, from the Latin identitas, means sameness, oneness, the state of being oneself. But this simple etymology only scratches the surface. In Hebrew, the essence of identity goes deeper, rooted not in ego or external markers, but in the divine blueprint. The Hebrew word often associated with identity is zehut, which shares the root of zohut, meaning essence, recognition, or even resemblance. In Kabbalistic thought, to have identity is to be in alignment with one's Zelim Elohim, the image of Elohim, the divine imprint etched within the soul. Identity, then, is not something we create. It is something we uncover, something we remember, something we return to. Interestingly, the very word Ivri, from which we derive Hebrew, comes from the root avar, meaning to cross over. The crossing is not just geographical, it is metaphysical, transformational, and covenantal. Abram crossed over from the idolatrous culture of Ur into a life of faith and obedience, becoming Abraham, the father of many nations, Genesis 17:5. Sarai crossed over from barrenness and limitation into Sarai, the spiritual mother of nations, Genesis 17:15. Yaakov crossed over from a wrestling with his identity into Israel, the one who wrestles with Elohim and prevails, Genesis 32:28. Hoshea crossed over into Yehoshua, Numbers 13:16, the one through whom Israel would enter the promised land, a prophetic shadow of the Messiah. These name changes mark identity transfigurations ordained by the Most High, not self-willed transitions, but divinely purposed crossings into destiny. In contrast to today's trans movements, which often promote self-constructed identities detached from the Creator, the Hebrew pattern of crossing over is about becoming what Elohim has declared, not merely what one desires. To be Ivri is to cross over from confusion to clarity, from bondage to freedom, from flesh to spirit, and ultimately from self to sonship. The age of trans movements, lost in transition. Presently, we are living in the age of transgender, exploring gender identity beyond traditional norms, transhuman, enhancing human capabilities through technology, transracial, identifying with a race different from one's birth, transspecies, identifying with a species other than human, transsexual, identifying with sexuality other than the natural relations we were created to have for procreation, transabled, a feeling of discomfort being able-bodied and desiring to alter body to be disabled, etc. Identifying with anything and everything other than the human being that one was born to be. Each movement, all the more in its own language, expresses a desire to cross over, to transcend the limitations of biology, history, or form. And beneath that desire is a legitimate spiritual truth. We were made to evolve, to transform, to go beyond. But here's the danger. When this movement is severed from its source, When the journey of transformation is divorced from the Creator's design, the trans movement becomes a path not of revelation, but of confusion, Babylonian. The phrase solve et coagula, Latin for dissolve and coagulate, is an alchemical maxim inscribed on the arms of the Baphomet, a symbol long associated with occult traditions and inverted spiritual principles. In its original esoteric context, solve referred to the breaking down of false ego or identity, coagula to the reintegration of the purified self into unity with the divine. But in the dark alchemy of modern culture, this principle has been hijacked and weaponized through movements that distort the natural order of creation. The trans movement perfectly applies solve as the deconstruction of given identity, biological, spiritual, even familial, and coagula as the reconstruction of a self-asserted persona that often resists heaven's design. This inversion of sacred transformation mimics the holy process of transfiguration outlined in Torah, but without the guiding presence of Yah. Instead of yielding spiritual wholeness, it results in disorientation, disembodiment, and a fragmentation of the soul. True transformation, as seen in the lives of Abraham, Sarah, Israel, and Yehoshua, is always in alignment with the heavenly covenant, not personal rebellion. The Baphomet's version, however, replaces the image of Elohim with the fractured mirror of one's own making. In that spirit, the transgender movement seeks identity in the realm of gender expression, but without a return to the Creator's original intent. The transhumanist movement aims to surpass human limitations with technology, but often without soul, without Torah, without reverence. Even transracial ideologies seek to escape the consequences or context of history, sometimes unintentionally trivializing the suffering or erasing the truth. These are not mere social debates. They are spiritual diversions, false transfigurations that offer the appearance of liberation while leading souls deeper into fragmentation. The true trans movement is the transfiguration movement, the sacred journey of returning to the likeness of Elohim through surrender, sanctification, and embodiment, transcending the crisis, reclaiming our divine identity. In a previous article I've written, Our Crisis of Identity, I shared my personal journey of navigating cultural dislocation and the profound impact it had on my sense of self. Growing up as a so-called African American in America, I experienced firsthand the fragmentation of identity resulting from systemic oppression and historical erasure. This crisis is not unique to me. It is a collective experience that underscores the urgent need for cultural and historical reclamation. Building upon that foundation, we now delve deeper into the transformative role of identity within the framework of the Transfiguration movement. This movement is not merely about personal enlightenment, but about a collective return to our true essence as children of Elohim. The Torah of identity, children of Elohim. Let us return to the beginning. Genesis 1:26-28 says, And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Identity begins with this truth. We are not accidents of nature. We are reflections of Elohim. To be human is to bear the Selim Elohim, the seal of heaven. Though dormant, this identity is not static. It's a calling. It's an active, living reality that must be actualized. We are born with the potential to reflect Elohim, but it is through covenant that we begin to walk in that image. And herein lies the key. Israel was chosen not to hoard this image, but to herald it. Israel, the priestly people, and the blueprint for humanity. The role of Israel in the human story is not about racial superiority or national pride. It is about function, a priestly role, a divine assignment to reflect the Creator's light and show the world what it means to walk in sacred and holy identity. As it says in Exodus 19:5-6, Now therefore, If you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Israel is called to model humanity's true form, deemed righteous, reconciled. The Torah was not given to restrain the joy of life, but to restore the clarity of it. The mitzvot, or commandments, are not about control. They are about calibration. They bring our identity into alignment with our heavenly source. Messiah, Yeshua, the firstborn of many, came to demonstrate what the true image looks like fully expressed. He was a life not of conformity, but of transfiguration. As I've mentioned previously, on the Mount of Transfiguration, his face shone like the sun. Why? Because the image of Elohim was no longer veiled by the egoic self. He was pure vessel. This is the goal for each of us, returning to our divine identity. We are living in a time when the world is confused because it has forgotten who it is. People are suffering because they are living beneath their design, either because of ignorance or willful disregard. Identity theft is not just a financial issue, it is a spiritual epidemic, and it's generational. Broken fathers create broken sons. Unhealed mothers shape confused daughters. Colonialism, slavery, and systemic oppression compound this disorientation. Yet the answer is not found in rebellion, it is found in return. Teshuvah, repentance, reclamation, realignment. We must transfigure, not to become something new, but to reveal what we were always meant to be, the children of Elohim. A call to transfiguration. The time has come to move beyond the crisis of identity and embrace our true selves. Let us reclaim our heritage and spiritual lineage, realign with the image of Elohim within us, reflect the light of Elohim in our communities and the world. By doing so, we fulfill our purpose and contribute to the collective restoration of humanity. We are in the hour of great unveiling, the hour when masks fall, when illusions are shattered, and when the true children of Elohim rise to the surface. This is not the time to identify with trauma, gender dysphoria, cultural confusion, or artificial intelligence. This is the time to identify with the messianic mind, with the kingdom of priests, with the heavenly family of those being restored to the image. We are not trans anything. We are transfiguring sons and daughters of the Most High. And if we embrace the process, we will shine, not with the synthetic glow of vanity, but with the primordial, eternal light of purpose. So who are you? You are not your trauma. You are not your trend. You are not your shame. You are not your confusion. You are a child of Elohim, and the world is waiting for you to remember. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. So said King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 12, verse 1. Let our transfiguration begin. Selah.